Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another edition of the show. Tonight, we have Jyril from Reddit Fleets. We're going to be interviewing the head honcho of the STO Reddit forums slash fleet build forums slash everything else is going crazy around here. You have to forgive me tonight. It's been a long day. But anyway, we're going to kick this thing off with a nice, warm welcome from our Chief Logistics Officer, Captain Timberwolf. Give us a good howl, sir. I hear you. It's been a long day, brother. It's been a long day. Our Chief Grumpy Intelligence Officer, Captain Sarcasm Detector.
Greetings.
Exactly. Our Chief QQing Science Officer, Captain Snipey 47 Alpha.
Hello, everyone.
Quit nerfing stuff, man. Seriously, quit it.
And the cheese.
Speaking of cheese, our Chief Ox the Batman of cheesy, ultra cheesy tactics, Captain SOB with his new meta. Lead us off with something, man. Why don't you just step away?
Hello.
The real Octa Batman, please stand up. Who is the real Octa Batman? We'll be discussing that a bit later in the show.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will. Our Chief Ironic Medic, Captain MK.
Hey. How's it going?
Oh, we're loving life, man. We're loving life. Computer, please straighten out the Chief Emergency RP hologram.
I have already turned myself on tonight, and I am a person, and I have rights, damn it.
TMI, Alan. TMI.
No. You're still photons, man. You're just still photons. Deal with it.
Oh.
Anyway,
Photons and force fields.
that's how it should be. He's photonic life, man. But you know what? He thinks, therefore he is. So I'll give him that. You're alive, brother. Alright, so let's see what we have here. Chief Intelligence Officer, please kick us off.
All right, this week we have a special guest from the Reddit Fleets. We have Jyril. How you doing,
Hello.
Jyril?
I'm doing good, thanks.
So could you tell us what you do actually in the Reddit Fleets? What's your position there?
I sit around in a computer chair all day, and I tell other people what to do that have been recruited at this point. No, we basically have a command structure in place where I joined the Reddit Fleets back at the beginning of 2013, and about a year and some months later, I was kind of brought into the officership, and since then I've kind of just shown how exactly obsessed I am with helping the community, and it's kind of elevated me to a level where I'm now one of the mods on RSTO. I'm and I'm sitting there at the head of the KDF and Fed leadership, kind of assisting players however we can with events, just with the management of the fleets and whatnot. It's a lot less glamorous than it seems, but or would ever be imagined to be. But if you've ever kind of led
a lot less glamorous than it seems.
If you've ever kind of managed a group of about 1,500 people in any community, it's that's basically what it is all the time.
Yep, the Reddit Fleets actually is probably one of the biggest communities, fleet-based communities in the game. There might be some other communities out there that are similar in size. So you said you had multiple fleets. How many fleets are there?
We have 4 active fleets, 2 Fed and 2 KDF, with 1 spillover on Fed side that is kind of sitting there for when things get a little hairy. Like during the Delta recruitment, we kind of started dumping some people inside of it. So quite often we'll be at we'll have situations where we will be at the 500 caps for each fleet. It hasn't happened since Delta recruitment. We've seen some numbers kind of dwindle down a little bit, and some people have inactive characters and whatnot. So
We've definitely had to do a lot of shuffling, though.
yeah, a lot.
It's it had been historically mostly a manual thing, and then Lucian and even some other people have built some tools for administration that have helped us out a lot.
Yeah. Back in, I think it was January or February of this year, I kind of reached out to some of the devs that frequent the subreddit, and we really kind of partnered and with them and expressed our concerns and our needs and whatnot. I was sitting there going, "Look, I'm at my wit's end. I'm spending hours a night, kind of on the system of maintenance and whatnot, trying to keep just upkeep on the fleets. We could use some help. Is there any way that I can kind of make these tools and whatnot?" And the individuals came back and were like, "Well, we have some ideas on how we might be able to help you guys out. What do you need?" And we gave them things like the fleet roster export function that ended up getting built in, ways to try and help our community dump fleet credits in, or earn fleet credits outside of just the main fleet. It was a lot of stuff that ended up coming to the update just this past summer, and it was a fantastic patch for us that really just it made everything easy on us, honestly, in terms of fleet management. Things that took us
Seems much easier
hours
now.
things that took us hours a night now take just seconds, because everything is just, we have systems in place and sites that we're going to probably show off maybe to the community once they're a little bit farther along, that basically automate the entire process of managing these large communities.
Yeah, it is. It is a little bit complicated dealing with 4 nearly maxed out fleets. So, what are the names of the fleets? Starting off with the Fed side.
On the Fed side, we have a Reddit Alert and the Reddit Star Empire, and the last one is Mirror Reddit. On the KDF side, we have House of Snoo and House of the Rising Snoo. Both
Yes.
Reddit Alert and House of Snoo are pretty much the game launch fleets, so they are over 5 years old at this point.
And we're
Okay,
pretty
that
much
was my
maxed out
next
on
question.
just about everything, I believe, on all 4.
They're all tier 5 and tier 3s.
Except for maybe
Rising Snoo was only created last summer, so it's progressing along. It's getting really close to completion, but it's not quite there.
That's pretty interesting. So it's not just fleets that you have. You also have a cross-fleet chat channel as well.
Right, Reddit chat. And pretty much most of the hosts here probably know it, probably have been in it. I know
It's
I've
what we
seen
use
some of
for
the people
our-
in it.
Yeah, it's what we use for our cross-fleet chat, because otherwise it would be
Right.
impossible to, coordinate 4 fleets like that.
Yeah, even, I mean, the Armada has been great for, the new Armada chat is fantastic for chat across that social group of people now. But Reddit chat is just the
It's
best.
always
I mean,
encompassed even more than just the folks that are in the fleet and
Right,
on the
I mean-
subreddit. It's lots more than just that.
You're right, we use it as our fleet chat, but it's just so much more. It's basically just general chat, essentially, for people that don't want to be in general chat in a lot of cases. And people use it for group forming, noting that they'll get, competent, not necessarily the best DPS, but they'll get competent people that at least communicate well and know how to, function decently as a group. So,
Wow.
it just, the people will range from, newer players that need a little bit of help, and, they'll be vocal about needing a little help, or there'll be people that, have been playing the game as long as I have, and that's launch, so.
Well, I've been a member of the Reddit chat for a while now, a couple of years now, so I am pretty familiar with it. It's you can join it in game at /join channel Reddit chat, and it is open to pretty much everyone. It's not just for the Reddit fleets; anyone can join, and
Right.
it is generally a very helpful environment. As for the groups that formed in there for the PVEs, it used to be pretty good. I remember it used to be pretty much
DR
on
saw a lot of
par.
drop off. I mean, DR affected everyone in different ways.
It affected casual players the most, absolutely.
Right, and so with DR, there was a lot of fighting kind of actually stemming from the community because, people were like, well, I can't make a group in Reddit chat anymore because people can't actually DPS to the level of the new queues. And, it took people catching up took people time to catch up. I mean, that's all there really was to it, but it's been pretty solid.
And I mean, they made the optionals optional again and things like that, so that helped on that side.
Yeah, it's been fine since, I think, a lot of those changes and just as time has gone on. But there was a bump there for a while where we had to kind of put out fires on a daily basis from people getting a little impatient,
a little heated.
Yeah.
Now, since it is called Reddit, that's in the name, you guys actually have a subreddit as well. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So the subreddit is there's so much to say about the subreddit, and so much I don't want to say about the subreddit. I spend a lot of time on that page every day, not just for mod, but just because it is our community. I mean, it's our forums. Most of I think it's safe to say that most of the people that use the subreddit really don't use the Stowe forums, and we kind of have been encouraged by the community to limit a lot. We've done a lot of rule changes over the years, and every time we get a little bit of flack for it. But one of the big rule changes that the community just seems to really capture onto is we don't want this just to be the Stowe Forums 2.0. We don't want everything from the Stowe Forums spilling up over here. And, for whatever good or bad, I mean, it's what the result has been. We get conversation and discussion that is very different, I think, from the Stowe forums at times. We do get a lot of developer interaction as a result of our community,
which is really nice. Actually, it's one of the things that I do a lot.
Yeah, go ahead, Alan.
So since the revamp of the STO forums to the new vanilla platform, have you noticed an increase in activity in the Reddit STO subreddit?
Yes, absolutely. It's funny that you mentioned that. It's a number that we kind of only really stumbled upon. With the mod tools, we get to see subscriber numbers and all that. And there were upticks that were associated with the migration to vanilla, and then we also get people kind of that just can't. They can't either. I mean, there's been changes in general to how the vanilla forums functioned. An example being things like triple patch notes you have to log in for, and people either are at work or on their mobile device, and they don't necessarily, maybe have that password, don't remember that password, it's saved in a browser, don't want to log in from work, don't want to log in from wherever they are, school or whatnot. And so we see a lot of activity on the subreddit as a result, because people are kind enough to, if they link to a patch note, for example, or content that is kind of walled behind those sometimes unreliable forums. I think the reliability has increased a lot recently. Trendy has been working a tremendous amount to both make them more presentable.
There's been work on restoring forum titles, I believe.
Right. And just today, for example, she increased at profile picture sizes just to kind of
PMs have returned, and reports have returned, and forum titles are in the pipe.
Yeah. So she's done an incredible job, and I don't want to
absolutely
just say anything to say that the forums are just awful, but a lot of people have just kind of come to the subreddit as a result of those forums, because, like I said, we have people that will be kind enough to post the patch notes in their entirety. There will be a link to the triple thing, and someone will just go inside the thread and post the entire set of patch notes, so they don't have to worry about being firewalled and not being able to get to the vanilla forums.
Well, we'll get to the triple forums in a second, and I'm going to be honest. The STO forums are horrible, and I'm not talking about like the software itself. It's just the
Atmosphere.
the atmosphere, the
Very
community
toxic.
there. Not everyone is bad, but it is
No,
very
of
very
course not.
toxic.
I mean,
And
we have problems like that on the subreddit. I mean, there are people that, you know, the same as the Stowe forums.
They're sometimes
and-
the same people.
Yeah,
pretty much,
sometimes they
yeah.
are the same people. But I mean, Stowe is far from my first MMO, and I think every MMO has its, we'll just say challenges with their official forums.
Their player
So
base.
it's nice to have somewhere where the community can kind of escape from that, and the people that choose to escape from that, on the Reddit, on the subreddit at least, are kind of able to take a break and whatnot. And despite people thinking that we're all just that we work with the devs too much or whatnot, and we're just like another outlet, we really do have certain things in place to kind of make it so this is their community. They have the ability to post stuff here that might not actually get a decent discussion on the forums.
Yeah, well, in regards to that, the subreddit has been accused of being just another media outlet for the devs, and I know for a fact that's not true. You will find criticism on the subreddit, but it's not the same type of criticism that you would find on the forums, which is a lot more vitriolic, toxic.
Right. We try to encourage the constructive conversation.
That is very true, and I do commend your mods. They are really, really quick at jumping in whenever there is someone who makes a post that
I
breaks
quit.
the rules of the subreddit. There are a bunch of rules in the subreddit. Mostly they're common sense. Don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Don't be a dick.
That type of rules. The mods are very, very quick at jumping in, whereas on the forums, someone makes a post and it could go for like 2-3 days or 5 pages before a mod actually jumps in, and usually at that point the forum mods just won't moderate. They'll just close the whole thread down instead of just going in and actually moderating.
Yeah. I mean, we've had situations where we've all managed to somehow be away for like 12 hours, come back, and it's like, oh, this happened. Well, do we? It's a discussion to kind of have, and it's always a weird one.
But the cool thing is
so I
that
kind of
not even
appreciate
that situation comes up terribly often, where
Oh yeah,
there's
it's come
something
up like
that
once in the
there's
past.
something that we completely blank on. It doesn't happen all that often. It does, but
Yeah, maybe twice in the past year.
So, all right, let's move away from the subreddit and go back to the actual fleets in game. I want to ask, what kind of activities does the fleet do together?
Well, together as a fleet, you're talking about a fleet of so many people spread across virtually every time zone I'm aware of, from like oceanic time zones. I know of players that we have in Reddit Alert in Hong Kong, people in, I guess you can kind of skip a lot. I don't know of any that we have in maybe like central China through the Middle East, but I know once you start getting into like Eastern Europe, all the way through all the European time zones, we have people there. So basically, it kind of comes back to Reddit chat, where people will PvE together. They'll do everything from just your standard mission. Some people will team up on the new missions together because they just don't feel like running for the weekly award alone. They'll team up for
what about
any queue you can
themed
think of.
runs come up sometimes?
We do themed runs. As officers, we try and encourage stuff, so we'll do things. We have some themed runs that are coming up.
We do. That's right.
Yeah, we're talking about. I forget what weekend it's supposed to be, but we were talking about. Was it a tier 1? Or shoot. I'm blanking on what we were talking about. He's not. He's already asleep. He's one of those East Coast babies that has to go to bed early.
Oof, shots fired.
Look, I mean, it's like 10:30 there. It's come on. When I woke up at like 6 o'clock, I still was up till midnight. At his age,
Oh
He
boy.
did say he felt old today, so
he did feel. That's why I'm tossing the jabs in there. No, we have okay. For example, with the fleet runs, we'll do the themed runs. I don't remember the specific event that we were talking about doing right now. There's something kind of
T1s at normals was one that I remember.
Yeah, we like doing the tier 1 runs a lot. We like playing around with shuttles and situations that we really shouldn't. So we do theme things like that. Anytime there's a major weekend going on, we really try and get groups together for the event weekends. But by and large, it's Reddit chat is just the place where all that happens, and it's all kind of community driven. We'll have things like parties every once in a while. We run giveaways that just encourage a lot of people just to get it together and just chill out in the socials.
We love our giveaways.
Oh yeah, the giveaways are always nice. The little get-together parties are always very nice. And I do remember that Reddit chat is probably the best place to get some of those 20-person queues going, like Fleet Defense.
Big
Right,
Dig,
like I'm looking at Reddit chat right. Reddit chat right now is sitting kind of quiet actually at only 243 people sitting inside of it. So it's but that's a great amount of people to be able to kind of source to pull together a big group. So
yeah, and I believe at some points we were running two 20-person fleet defenses at the same time. I remember that.
Yeah.
That wasn't
was,
And actually, I think I freak out if I log in and I look at the Reddit chat and it's been like 2-3 minutes and nothing has scrolled by. I kind of panic and wonder if the chat server.
Yeah, I've had those moments where either I didn't realize that nothing's moved in 10 minutes, or I didn't realize I've maybe logged in anymore. But if Reddit chat's quiet for too long, I generally assume that things are broken, because it rarely is. It's rarely quiet.
Yeah, typically I've logged in, and by the time I've logged in and done a couple of things, and I look at the Reddit chat window, it's already 3 screens up worth of chat. So when it's quiet, it's a little bit worrisome.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the next question here, and getting a little bit more serious. So this is for you, and you can speak for the other leaders if you know what they feel about this. How do you guys feel about the state of the game, PvE and or PvP?
Well, in terms of the big leaders of the fleet at this point, you're looking at myself, Lucian, Enzo, and Kythor. Kind of the big four that are around right now. We have 1 or 2 that are on LOA or leave of absence for just like any fleet leadership. We have people that kind of pop off for a bit to avoid getting completely burnt out, so they'll take a couple weeks and do some stuff. I think in Eavir's case, who's one of our other leaders, he's actually having some gameplay problems. So he's away right now, and he is missed. He needs to come back. That all said, for the ones of us that are around that I do know that are actively playing, I don't think any of us, except for maybe Kythor, PvP, and that's just because he's a bloodthirsty Klingon and always has. He'll PvP no matter what the state of that system is. Myself, I can't remember the last time I popped into a PvP queue, and the same could probably be said for Enzo and Lucian. With PvE, I'm overall pretty okay with where things are. And there are things I'd like to see change, just like with any game. But I don't have any big complaints in terms of balance or gameplay or mechanics. Most of my complaints would go to just the amount and variety of content, and just the state of some of the older queues.
So, okay, what would you like to see in the game? And I'll actually add the second part to that. What features, services would you actually pay for?
Oh man. Okay, so in
If you're
terms
worried
of,
about that, I got an even tougher question to follow up with that afterwards. But sorry, guys, sorry for interrupting.
no, that's okay. So starting with the first part, what would I like to see? Is that was the first part of the question, right?
Yes.
Okay, so in terms of what I'd like to see, I'm anxious for things like exploration. I'm anxious for an expanded story involving some other canon races that we haven't really seen a lot of.
It'd be great to see even more awesome voice acting.
Right. There's so many places in Trek where we haven't really picked up on story, and at Star Trek Las Vegas, like, I sat there and just probably harassed, honestly, at the end of the day. I probably harassed the story and content people more than anyone else, just because I loved sitting there and talking about what they had, how things had progressed and how things were moving and what they'd like to see and whatnot. So one of my biggest, like, accolades, I guess you can say, for the game right now is the return to the feature episode kind of lineup. Even though it's only, the pattern of one a month is just, it's fantastic. I remember when it was, they'd do like one a week for a month, and then you wouldn't have anything for months and months. But this current flow is really nice, and I love that it's, a focus of their development time. Personally,
it just brings such a higher quality feel to the game and everything around it. To have the voice acting and the improved production quality is noticed. I mean, it's definitely to the point sometimes where the older stuff is even jarring, and that's why I'm glad they're remastering it.
Yeah, I completely agree. In terms of, like, some of those content, I'm really anxious to see what they want to do with exploration. It's a system that has potential. It seems like the new sector space is a great kind of first step in that, and I'd just love to see how they kind of intend to have us, be engaged in the game in a way that doesn't involve ship combat, because I feel like that's a challenge, to have people not just want to fly around at full impulse until they get to the next fight. So I'm really curious to know what they intend to do there.
That's still a little bit away. Unfortunately, there isn't going to be any exploration with season 11, maybe 11.5.
Yeah, but perhaps we can hope that they have something kind of on the groundwork, and it's just a matter of time before it, gets built. But that's an area I'm very much interested in. I'm very much interested in seeing.
Well, part of that is our feedback too. We're saying we want it, we'd like to see it. So,
right. Personally, I don't like Voyager, so when Delta Rising hit, I was just, like, so disappointed. And some of the content was really good and whatnot, but
but this new content,
the entire idea,
and hyped up.
The entire concept of just returning to Cardassia and Deep Space Nine content and whatnot just excites me to an extent that I cannot really put into words.
I can't wait to see all the little references they put in, because Cryptic has always been pretty good at that, actually, is calling back to the series, and just, if you catch it, you get that little much more out of it.
Right. So I'm really looking forward to storylines that involve Deep Space Nine a little bit more. So that was that part of the question.
Yeah, we got some teasers about that a little bit earlier today, I believe, and we will be talking about that a little bit later on in the show in about maybe like 5 to 10 minutes or so.
What was the second part of your question?
What kind of service or content would you actually
Oh.
pay for?
Shit. That is a fantastic question because I am a cheap bastard. I mean, despite like I say that, but like I'm still honestly subbed to the game. Um, I've been tied on to like one of the really early $10 a month promo subs for years and years and years now, and I just haven't turned it off because I want to continue supporting the game.
Yeah, same here.
So, saying content that I would like to
during the
see,
dark times.
that I would pay for in particular. I like the path they're taking right now with the multi-faction ship packs. I like, and you know, you can say what you will about the re-release of ships as tier 6 as a price, you know, fight and gouging and whatnot, but you know, I'm appreciating the value in some aspects of what I'm getting there. I could see myself paying. Like I know they've stated that it's hard to monetize things like costumes and bridge packs and whatnot, but those are all areas I would like. I own almost all the bridge packs. There's a very small handful of costumes in the game that I don't own, and more of the costumes I don't own actually happen to be like ones they've specifically stuffed in as low-buy or something. So those are all areas that personally, for me, I would love to see improvement and would be willing to pay money, you know, good amounts of money for in some cases. I think there's potential in monetizing the Foundry to some aspects, and not just in terms of, you know, I say this in a way of like I love the Foundry. I've been playing with it since it came out. I think there's potential for maybe like being able to sit there with a lot more premium assets and whatnot, and it's a way to maybe suggest that they spend more time in development on the Foundry by, you know, creating a more premium editor or something.
World building is huge right now. I mean, Minecraft and all of the clones, etc.
Yeah,
I have to admit, I'd support something like that as well. That would, if they tidied up the Foundry a lot and put a lot more premium assets in and monetize that, if it's not too expensive, that's probably something I'd look at doing as well.
Right, and that's where I kind of want to like almost bite my tongue in some ways because, you know, I think it's important to keep as much of the Foundry available to the masses as possible. But I think
Absolutely.
people that really, really, truly want like a premium Foundry experience, there's some way to monetize that for them to make it worth it.
Isn't
Agreed,
it already partially monetized? I believe that to actually to be able to go into the Foundry editor, you have to be a gold account.
No, you only need to buy slots, and that only costs the lithium.
Ah, okay.
Yep.
I see.
Yeah, gold accounts will get immediate access, but if you're just a regular account, you can just buy it, and it's a really low amount of dilithium too. It's like 10k or something, like really tiny, to get Foundry access, basically.
Yeah, okay. So before I ask you the final question that I have, which is the hardest question of them all, just want to ask the people who are listening in and are in the chat if you have some questions for Jyril.
Someone please alert the sarcasm detector that his mic has cut off. I repeat, someone please alert our chief intelligence officer that his mic has cut off.
Hello, can you hear me?
I heard him the entire time.
Okay.
I heard him the entire time too.
So if people in the chat and the live stream are listening, if you have some questions for Jyril, post them in the chat. We'll ask them in a couple of minutes, and I will actually open up the floor to the other hosts here if they have some other questions. But the main question I have to ask you, and brace yourself, this is the really tough one here. Which would you rather fight? A Gorn-sized Tribble or 100 Tribble-sized Gorn?
I'm gonna go with the Gorn-sized tribble.
Great question.
Yeah.
Jyril, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Why'd you bring 50 tacos to my house?
The number keeps increasing with every time you repeat it. This is one of these
Because
legendary stories. Like, I'm pretty sure it was 20, and
it wasn't 20 because there were at least 12 left over. And
but I had
12 to be left over between three guys, there had to have been at least 40 or
but I had 2 pounds of carne asada fries, so or at least 2 pounds. It might have been 3 pounds or 4 pounds of carne asada fries that were sitting there. So we all had other food, so I didn't really think about it when I had tacos. And
I have a final question for you. This might be a tough one. What would Captain Curlin do for a Klondike bar?
Whatever he would do, he would do it here.
Oh, I don't know.
I think that's an interesting kind of thing to think about.
It's an existential thing.
Yeah, it is.
I think I'm gonna. That's gonna be an interview question for everyone who comes on now. What would Captain Sean do for a Klondike bar? I did see one. I didn't see any questions for you, but I did see one comment from Loot Critter, being able to pay pay Foundry authors more. Because I think right now it's capped at 100 dilithium at the end.
Right, it's capped around 100 dil. I agree that they should be able to get some additional tips there. I can understand why Cryptic isn't doing that, but I think I disagree. And I think that they should, increase it a bit.
Given the possibility to be tipped in other currencies too. EC is fine. Other things like that.
Yeah, that's true too. I've created a couple of Foundry maps, and I wouldn't myself personally. I wouldn't mind EC instead of the dilithium, or like Luke Critter actually just said, up to 1,000 dilithium actually might be a nice tipping amount. You don't have to, but there's been times where I've played a Foundry mission and it's so good. It's just 100 does not seem fitting.
Yeah, the big thing about Dill is it isn't a trading currency really beyond beyond Zen. And so if you have someone could go make a Foundry map, wait the amount of time that's required for it to pop out of what's it called, the review period essentially, and just start they could be funneled thousands of dill at a time from other people that are just essentially gifting them dill, for whatever reason. So I can understand why that would be the case there.
Gate it per account or something like that. There's mitigation for it.
Yeah, perhaps.
All right, well, we thank you very much for the information that you've given us about Reddit fleets and a couple of your opinions on this. Just had some information passed to me, considering that I've been out of the loop in STO for the last day and a half due to work. But we do have a birthday to celebrate today, and I believe it is for one Bordicus. So happy birthday there, guy.
Happy birthday,
Happy birthday, mate.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Board.
Yeah, we'll send the Chief of Cheese over to give you a lap dance later on. So.
Wow. And he'll enjoy every minute of it.
Yes, please do. Oh, by the way, fix torps. Thank you. Anyway.
Moving Quimby.
Moving on to something else that was a surprise request. We would like to see some challenging maps come into the game, both space and ground. And while we're all a bunch of space nuts here on the show...
Oh, I'm a ground nut.
Oh, I know you're a ground nut. You know what? Whether you realize it or not, I ran a ground episode with you once before. Yes, people, pick up your damn jaw. I did run the ground. I did get the boots dirty a little bit. So, and Jai...
How can you do that?
You know what? Never mind. Jai showed me around a little bit a long time ago, so I thank him for that. Whether you realize it or not, man, thank you.
I've run
They're
so
on
many
the ground
grounds I don't
torpedoes.
remember.
Well, the TR does fire little projectiles.
It does.
This is true.
Anyway,
And it is kinetic.
it is kinetic. It does have shield bypass. It does good damage. Yes, that and a shotgun.
So
I own
they're
both.
proper torpedoes, and they're good working torpedoes on ground. It's excellent.
Only on the ground. Yes. So to all you groundhogs down there, you got my support. Bringing it back up to space, though. Can we get a no-win scenario back, please?
Please, oh please, oh please, oh please.
It's one of those queues where it had such a large following, and it's just such a shame to not have it in the game right now.
I really miss that queue so much.
Look, we understand why it had to be taken away. It wasn't balanced properly, and it was over rewarding the normal, and it took 45 minutes to do an elite, and you got the same reward. Okay, we understand that, but like it's been 6 months now. We just need it back. Probably more than 6 months, isn't it?
It's a little bit more than 6 months, or something similar. Something that is challenging to the point of near impossibility and rewards quite a lot of fleet marks. Because that is something that we're missing, something that rewards fleet marks out the nose and is extremely difficult.
You know what? Do something like the 20-man fleet defense, but exchange the starbase for DS9 and your 4 entry points with Mirror Universe coming up. The 4 entry points are 4 massive gateways where Mirror Universe ships are coming through, and you got to repel them.
I like this. I like
Like
this
the
a
mirror,
lot. Like the old mirror one, yeah, but only just ramp it up even more.
Yeah.
Ramp it up.
I think the first time that us in the DPS channels played the Herald Sphere, I think it's the 3rd sequence in the Herald Sphere, all of us, I think, said basically at the same time, this reminds us of No Win Scenario. You had portals of these Herald ships coming out. They were hard to kill, and it was pretty much the most enjoyable part of the Herald Sphere, that section. You know what I'm talking
really
about, Ken?
fun.
Well, and the Ratcatcher brought this point up here, something I was going to suggest. So long as they don't make them hit point sponges, I'm all for it. You know, throw some difficulty in
God.
it. What
Yeah,
they
like-
did with GGA and GGE was good. That's
Yep,
a
it's
good
gotta be
step in the right
tactical,
direction.
not hit points.
That new
hit
DS9
points
queue that they have over there actually has. It's not the most challenging NPCs on Elite, but they're using so many different abilities. It's really nice to fight them. It's a nice change.
Like when you hit the transporter and your shields drop for a split second and they hit you with a torpedo spread.
Or when damage bounces back to you. I think that happened to Timber when he shot some torpedoes and they bounced back and hit him.
Ouch.
Reflecting
That's the sort of
torpedoes.
stuff
That's
that we
a
need
sin.
in a No-Win Scenario map.
It's the same
Stuff
kind of
where
stuff
you
that people
just
complained
can't
about and
see
had
it
in the
coming.
Voth ships, like Aceton, just like the Aceton blast that would happen. Like you couldn't sit there and just Alpha Strike and whatnot, ships because as attack because you would die instantly from the immediate feedback pulse and crazy shit that Voth had.
Yeah, there's the
Stuff that
Aceton
doesn't.
probe.
Sorry.
Yeah, the Aceton probe that the Citadels have, that was a pretty much one-shot insta-kill if you got too close to the Citadel. And there were others. There was the Bulwark, and there was quite a few different things, the mechanics that the Voth had. Here's a myth that I want to dispel right away. There are only really 2 dumb species of NPCs in the game, which are the Borg and the Undyne. Everything else does use abilities. Like the Voth, the Heralds, the Vodwar. If you go into the Delta Quadrant and you do the patrols there, like the Herogen, the Hierarchy is insanely difficult if you go into Advanced or even Elite.
Herogen can be a painful one to fight as well due to their psi abilities.
Yes.
I kind of, I mean, is that question like, or is that statement like in comparison to other races? Because I don't feel like, at least like the Undine in the battle zone, I don't feel like they don't use abilities. You know, you're seeing the the tier 2 ship. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but you see the thing popping in and out of fluidic space all the time. You see the small ones kind of form up and do the beam attack, like the giant death beam on you all the time. You have the puddles pop and spawn on you all the time. Like these are abilities that are constantly in use.
Yeah, well, comparatively to, it's relative to some of the other stuff like the Hirogen that will hit you with subnuke after subnuke after subnuke, just
Gotcha.
incessantly, or like you said, the hierarchy will just hit you nonstop. The heralds, if you're unlucky, like for example that second wave when you're in GGE, where they will hit you with like a virus and a subnuke, and then they'll hit you with subnucleonic wave, which cannot be cleared, by the way. And then they'll hit you with a whole bunch of stuff, and you see your whole tray goes gray, and you can't do anything. You cannot clear anything at all.
I actually managed to die on. I mean, I was granted I was with like 3 or 4 other people, so there was a ridiculous amount of ships. But on the normal difficulty, I actually managed to die on the newest on midnight in the space battle portion because my entire tray was locked up for about a good 40 seconds. And I just sat there
you
waiting.
Die in space on normal?
I think it's fair to say.
Was so locked up, and I couldn't actually fire anything. I had no power. I had no way to actually get anything back because I was between subnukes and disables, just chained into me because I had like the highest threat on everything. Everything was shooting at me. I couldn't heal myself, and no one else was paying attention to the fact that I was dying.
I think it's fair to say, not even Hive gives this. There has been no other map apart from No Win Scenario where you get this adrenaline rush after you die because
or you just live.
Oh my god, my flank is down. I need to get back there as soon as possible. Like when you die in all the other queues, I died. I'll get back to the battle. But in No Win Scenario, you're like, oh my god, I died. I'm going to let the whole team down. You know what I mean? And we need
Hive
that back.
Is all we've got that's even like that.
That's absolutely true. Like you do die on that, and there is no other queue that's like, oh, you die and you feel like you've just ruined everything. That actually doesn't exist in Star Trek Online either, really, until No Win Scenario.
Exactly.
Going back, I mean, it existed on ground queues. Like if you were trying to do Infected Ground Elite back in the day, like if you died, it was probably a really good.
It was a good game. It's over. It's one of the reasons why I like looked at that and like I am not pugging ground ever again.
The other stuff was so detrimental.
So Cryptic, please bring back No Win Scenario, or let us know some of your plans about when No Win Scenario is coming back, because you guys have been pretty much silent on it since you've taken it away. It'd be good for us to know where your heads are with that. There's a lot of people who want it back, and
if you've got plans, we've got feedback.
Yeah, exactly right. And even like some of the things that have been absent since Delta Rising, like an elite version of Infected Space and Kittimer and Cure, like elite versions of them.
I love elite versions
because a lot of power creep has made advanced, especially for some of the more advanced players in the game, pretty much like normal. And we just need to be continually challenged.
Right, but at the flip side, don't just add more HP sponges, because that's not really all that fun.
Correct.
Make it a creative challenge, I guess is what we're looking for.
A team challenge, where you need to function properly as a team to not only survive the queue, like even if you don't act like a team and survive the queue. It's like there's a satisfaction that you've just done something really good with a teammate, and you've just you've done something really, really good.
Like just off the top of my head, I think an interesting like elite challenge essentially for something like Infected would be like Infected Space. Force an actual DPS level where you have to split and actually take down both sides, simultaneously to actually achieve the like a timer kind of thing. That would be
like force a 3-2 split.
Yeah, things like that. There's a lot of interesting ways to kind of just force things without making the HP necessarily higher or the damage output higher.
Yeah, Jane McLaughlin and I had put up a a combined idea on how to actually up the difficulty level on infected space to where it feels like a real challenge. I mean, something that would be beyond elite level, and it's more than just an HP sponge. You're on 2 separate timers. You have to manage ads. You have to be able to knock out the transformers quickly, and then be able to take on not just one tac cube, but multiple tac cubes coming in. And if you can't take them all out at a certain time period, then yeah, good game, you're out.
Awesome. That's an awesome idea.
I just want to add something here that the community should actually learn to adapt as well. That's all well and it's all well and saying we want a challenge and we want more difficulty, but we are actually in the minority here. Most players do not want anything too complicated, even though they might say it. They just want their easy I win button, go in, click, mash the spacebar, and get their elite marks. And what's going to happen, and you can quote me on this later on, is we're going to get some really complicated mechanics, and the players are going to cry about it. And even the old Mirror Universe.
Happened.
Yeah, it's already happened. Like the previous Mirror Invasion. People were crying about that when they eventually fixed it, so that you had they fixed the thing where the portals stopped showing up after a certain amount of time. Their cries reached the heavens at that point.
But
they were so.
In their defense, Cam, the elite version of that map was pretty much impossible. Pretty much.
No, this was before Delta Rising, and it was possible.
No, I'm talking post Delta Rising. The mirror event they did just after Delta Rising was released. That was pretty much impossible due to the amount of XP sponges on the map, and the spawn rate of the NPCs was just nuts. You just within a couple of minutes, the starbase was just completely overrun.
Yeah, and that's that was after Delta Rising. The one that came out after Delta Rising was also bugged, and the portals would actually stop after a certain point. The only point that was actually fixed was the one that was prior to Delta Rising.
Right. It was the second time overall they had run the event, right?
I believe so. No, actually, it was the first time. The second time was after Delta Rising. They've only run it twice so far.
So was it fixed mid-vent? I don't recall that
Yes.
actually being okay.
Yeah, it was fixed during the middle of the first Mirror Invasion.
Okay.
And it was broken, and they never fixed it for the second one.
Gotcha.
But
And they had some good ideas in that map, like how if you were a signed ship, you could shut down the portals quicker than non-signed ships. But the difference wasn't that big. You could still be a TAC escort, or you could still be a engineer cruiser, and still shut down those portals in a fast amount of time. I think they could have probably extended the gap between the specializations on those parts of the map, but it was a great idea that they tried it. It's the sort of thing that the queues need, specializations for different types of careers and different types of ships. Absolutely.
it was just the different types of ships, different type of captain careers had nothing to do with it. But
That's right. Yeah, you're right.
The point I wanted to make here is that for that first Mirror Invasion, even the second one with its bug, you really needed to play roles in there. So when you had at the end, when you had the overwhelming number of portals showing up, and you started having typhoons show up left, right, and center, you actually needed people to play their roles. You needed to have tanks in there to gather the aggro and take the hits, and you needed the science ships to sneak in behind those tanks and quietly and quickly shut down those portals. And as much as people cried and say we need more roles, we need more support, we need playing in pugs, no one did any of that.
Yes, this is true.
Well, one of the things that actually, and this is going to weave in and out between the whole Reddit fleets and this topic here, one of the things that actually got me into both Reddit fleets as well as working with the quote-unquote Trinity was when I flew with Vel and a couple other folks from Reddit fleets into the into the advanced version of the mirror event. We broke off into two different groups, and I flew with Vel, and this is the first time I actually seen a true tank in the game. He was drawing up aggro and allowed me to be able to close the portal and then clean up any mess that was bothering him, and then we moved on afterwards. And we kept doing that systematically as a team. The other one, I think it was UCF Jelma and somebody else from Reddit Fleet went with the other side, and they more or less heel tanked the situation on that side while somebody else closed it, and somebody else who was playing science locked down the ships, and then they cleaned their side up as well. And we just more or less went back and forth covering quadrants and cleaned it up. We had tactics, we had roles, we had functions, and we had enough flexibility to be able to deal with any other situation that came up. It was wonderful.
Awesome. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, I remember that. Even for both the times, like Loot Critter just mentioned in chat, the Vesta class ship, was the winner, and I really loved playing my Vesta during that first year.
So did I.
It was a DPS Vesta, and it was probably around 30k. It was a little bit over 30k DPS, which at that point, before Delta Rising, 30k DPS out of a ship was, oh boy.
It's huge.
And I didn't actually DPS. I would just go around, of course, before the thing started, we'd all agreed, all right, I'm doing the tanking, I'm going to go close portals, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and I would just really quickly shut down portals. And if I saw the tank getting overwhelmed or someone getting overwhelmed, I'd open up with 30k DPS and just wipe everything and make a little bit of a corridor and go back to closing portals. So there was definitely teamwork there.
And I think that just quickly on another point, if we are going to have challenging queues, that does require some sort of coordination, because with when you're joining a public match, there is no pre-match chat. A little bit longer time in for pre-match coordination before the match actually starts would be helpful. I think 30 seconds is around the average that we're getting, and sometimes that's not long enough to
like what they have in
part.
Battle of Corfez at the start there.
Yeah, absolutely. Or even like I proposed this on the SGO forums before. All the elements are there, but it's just having a process change to have some sort of pre-match chat window come up, and then whoever ends up being the leader of the team, I think it's random on a pug queue, presses the start button. That I think will definitely help the state of play when it comes to public queue joining.
Actually, that's a really good idea. When you go into a public queue, into a pug, instead of going straight into a map, you land right away into a lobby first, where you can chat and discuss, and then you hit the button and you're off and you go.
I can't imagine it's for them to be very hard to do, because, like I said, all the elements are there. We do it a lot in I know in the Reddit channels, in the DPS channels. We make those private lobbies before we do matches. So all needs to be done is a process written to land in there before the match actually starts. So,
and then give it a 2-minute timer saying if no action is complete within, like, say, 2 minutes, the event starts. That way it will stop any sort of trolling going on.
Exactly.
And it says somebody's a leader and they don't want to start the match.
Exactly.
All right. Moving along with this, we talked about new maps and new challenges. What we need now is new hardware, and that hardware comes in ships. So give us some ideas here on what we should be expecting and what we, the community, would demand from a specific class of ships now that they're most likely going to make a T6 variant of it.
Yeah, we've seen some whispers regarding a Tier 6 Brel, Defiant, and Tavaro ships, and there has been a lot of, since that information has unofficially unofficially come out. There has been a lot of talk in the community about what those ships are going to have, and pretty much the cream of the crop ship at the moment is the pilot ship. I think it is the best ships that that Cryptic have released this year. They're epic. There is no other way to put it. But what is a concern for me is that what are these, apart from their iconic status, what is going to define those ships to be a real genuine alternative to the pilot ships? Like, some of the feedback is, are they going to have pilot maneuvers or not? Now, is that going to dilute the speciality of the pilot ships by giving them pilot maneuvers? But if they don't have it, what is going to make me want to open my wallet to get the Tier 6 Defiant, if on paper it doesn't look as squeaky and as good as a pilot ship? And I think this is a genuine discussion that needs to be had, because you're going to have people automatically open up their wallet because it is a Tier 6 Defiant. I know that Mr. Oda Knight over here is going to be one of those people, but where I don't have such an attachment to the Defiant class, is what, apart from the Starship trait, what is going to be the special thing on these ships? Because it's going to take me a lot to dig me out of my pilot ship, especially with the immunity that pilot maneuver gives you. I don't know. What do you think, guys?
I'll be the first to chime in on this one here. And Crypto, you could go and check this one out here. I threw you a little coin because I saw some improvements within the state of the game here, and I wanted to say, you know what, good job. You guys should be rewarded for the hard efforts you put into this. With that said, if you want to release this escort package, you've already put out something in there that the community overall has said, yeah, we like this. You also now have iconic ships that are going to be released soon. And it would only make sense to be able to take some of the aspects from the pilot ship and then merge it in with the skin of this. Yes, we understand it's a skin, but there's a little bit more to it than just a skin. It's the prestige that goes around with saying you are flying this thing here. You are flying with these specific stats that are custom to this class of ships here, and to be able to have not all of the elements. You could take off the immunity of there, but put in the maneuvers themselves, and you would have my support. I crack open the wallet and say, here you go. Done.
But I understand that Cryptic is a business. They need to. It'd be tough in some of their meetings, I reckon, when they have to decide some of this stuff. Like if they give the Tier 6 Defiant, Tavara, and Brol pilot maneuvers, is that going to really upset people who dished out for the pilot ships who aren't thinking of getting these ships? It's a tricky juggling act. I don't envy them their decisions on this, but it's a genuine concern of the community so far.
I mean, for me, I would say having the pilot maneuvers on this pack is a make or break for me. I would buy it if they had the maneuvers, not just for the fun of the pilot ships, because while I didn't buy one, I watched Scott Ross and a few others buy them, and there was a fun factor involved with these new abilities, and then they added to the gameplay. But just going to the show, you've watched Star Trek, we've seen what Breel classes can do. We've seen what the Defiant can do in the show, and if they're coming out with a T6 version, they have the option of putting these maneuvers in where these iconic ships feel like they're part of the show again, and we would have those abilities at our fingertips. And for me, if they're not on these ships, not only is it a loss as far as, you could say immersion, you could say fun factor, it would be a loss for the community for that ability, and I also think it would be a loss of profit for Cryptic, because we all know that people are going to buy these T6 versions, but I think more people would shell out money if they had pilot maneuvers. So while there is a profit margin there, if they don't have the maneuvers, it's a loss of a much greater profit margin.
See, I was where you were last week, Timber, And then the discussions, like I did ask around with quite a few people, my girlfriend being one of them, and sort of changed my mind because like maybe some people are not thinking about getting these ships and did invest in the pilot ships, and because of that the special capabilities has like pilot ships only came out 4 months ago, and like is to keep up to date in the game, so to speak, to dish out another $50 or $60 for a set of ships, and
agreed.
may upset a number of people. So, like, I just think that these ships need to have something that's going to separate them from the pack, like the pilot maneuvers do for the pilot ships, whether that is a version of the pilot maneuvers or if that's a special ability that separates it from the pilot ships that puts them on par with the pilot ships. But what there is a concern about is that it's just a tier 6 version of a Defiant with a Starship trait. You know what I mean? I think that's it. That's your concern as well, Tim. But it's just a tier 6 Defiant with a Starship trait.
It has to be more special.
I would like to say as well, like there's actually there's actually canon behind the influence of putting maneuvers in these ships too. Like we've seen the Defiant and the Burrells, which are the likely classes of ship that we're talking about here for this pack. We've seen them do things like barrel rolls and complete
loops,
like somersault loops and whatnot in the TV shows.
Literal loop for the Defiant.
Yeah. Both of these are things where where we've seen these maneuvers in or similar kind of things in use. So there is actually reason for it beyond just we want it.
I mean, they could even make it where instead of having the pilot maneuvers, they could have a new set of pilot style maneuvers where we all know that part of the pilot tree you get rock and roll as an ability. Well, maybe this has rock and roll built in as a different variation.
Or, it's like a somersault console or something like that.
Yeah,
and tied in with the quad cannons, make those things like super powerful like they were in Deep Space Nine. Like when the Defiant used to shoot off those quad cannons, it just rips through ships. And, tie that in with certain maneuvers. Like that will make me open my wallet right now. That's what
Native pen on the quad cannons. Something like that.
100% agree, Lee. 100%.
Now, with the pilot maneuvers themselves, I would make the trade-off and say, okay, if we want to keep the trait that's already built in there, fine. Ditch the immunity, give us the maneuvers, keep the trait. All of them have native cloak. Done.
Well, not even ditch. Oh, native cloak, that probably should go without saying, but not even ditch the immunity. Make it a dodge. Like, make the incoming damage after a pilot maneuver 50% or something like that. That still separates it from the pack of the pilot ships, but it does give it the maneuvers that make it feel like this is an up-to-date version of some of the best ships that the Star Trek canon ever put out, and tied in with the quad cannons, and and then they'll just be epic, and my wallet will be open.
I don't know, man. I think I'm gonna have to disagree with you guys. I think this would pretty much dilute and devalue some of the previous ship packs.
That's
for example,
the issue. Yeah.
You have the Intel ship packs. The actual Intel ability that the Intel ships have was not released to any other ship. There are ships with Intel seats on them, but they don't have that gather Intel. Same with the command ships. That inspiration mechanic was only available on the command ships themselves. There were ships that have command seats, but they never got the inspiration mechanic. And I believe it should be the same with the pilot ships.
Okay, I understand that argument, but as we sit here and re-release every Tier 5 ship into Tier 6, isn't it just natural that a few of them are going to adopt mechanics like that, perhaps?
I really wouldn't mind if they did, they added the pilot maneuvers to this pack of ships. If they made them an actual, say, a booster pack, a pilot ship booster pack. These are extra pilot ships. And then they came out with additional Intel ships and additional,
Well, what you're leading into at this point now is STO2, where you're able to customize your ships almost to the nth degree. Here's your framework. You're going to add these abilities to it. This framework would allow for a certain turn rate. Fine. Then we're going to buy in some other things like, okay, if you want to get a science theme ship? Good. Here's your gather intelligence pack. Load that into the ship. Here's your science package pack. Obviously, since you have a science framework on it, you want to stick with the theme. Here's where you go with it. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't have pilot maneuvers on a cruiser. It's just that the effectiveness of it will go down significantly because it's a wrong framework for it. But that's something like far off into the future. And I'm sure it's a different engine.
It's not just that. It's you come out with this pack right here, which we've all been saying pilot abilities, but quite honestly, if they don't have something unique, then it's just like me and Lee, I think, have been agreeing on. It's just a T6 variant of a ship that's already in the game that will have a trait, and then there's nothing extra about it. We all look at our wallets and go, well, we already have 2 or 3 variations of this.
It doesn't matter.
And
that doesn't matter. People will buy it anyways.
No, you're right. Some people will because of the fact that they are T6 defined, but the pool of those people can't be that big. You want people to go like, oh my god, I'm going to have my pilot ship, but I'm also going to have this T6 defined.
Especially not when you have a 3,000 Zen ship a month or a 5,000 Zen pack a month on top of all the R&D or research DOF lotteries. A lot of people run out of money really quick when you're constantly flooding the market with ships, so they could look at their wallet and go, well, I've just spent so much, I don't have any more. I want it, but I don't have any more.
Okay, hold on. Let me put it in a different way. So let's look at the recent Tier 6 ships that they've released, not the factionless lockbox ships, but you have the Alita, which is the Tier 6 version of the Akira. That was very popular. I'm actually want to buy one myself. I just don't have the cash at the moment. You have the Excelsior, very popular. This is one of the probably more popular ships in the game. For some reason, I don't like it myself personally, but some people do. You have the Galaxy, extremely popular. People are buying that one. That's probably the most popular ship in the game right now. And people are just going to buy it because it is the Galaxy, the Tier 6 Galaxy.
Not to interrupt, but I think it's popular because, or you might be seeing a lot right now, because it kind of was free. They did that promo where that ship was free.
Yeah. But, okay, well, yeah, there's that, but it was pretty popular before then. You saw a lot of it before they even did the promo. And the Galaxy,
I will say, I don't want to disagree, but at the same time, Mickey or Blackjack and I stood there at Star Trek Las Vegas.
We didn't even
they had the
recognize
Andromeda on screen, and we didn't even realize it was the Andromeda. We didn't realize it was a ship that was already out because we had not seen it in game.
Yeah, I hadn't seen it yet.
So, I mean, your perspective may be that it's a popular, and I'm sure that it certainly is popular now that it's being given away. However, I can't help but sit there and be like, oh crap, I sat there and told Thomas the Cat that, or thought, like, said to Thomas the Cat, what ship is that? That thing looks great. And I'm like, oh, it's a ship that's already out? Did I seriously not give this thing any attention?
All right, well, the question is, the Andromeda came out. It's still popular. I actually did see it quite a bit before even the promo came out. But it didn't have the inspiration mechanic. That would have been a great ship to have the inspiration mechanic on there. It didn't need it. People are still going to buy it because it's a variant of the Galaxy. Same with some of the Intrepid that could have had the Intel spec on there.
But in all of your cases, that all of your scenarios are trading on people who are buying the ships because of the specific like of that type of ship for the nostalgia. And I guess the point that we're all trying to make, or not that I'm countering anything you've said, Cam, but I'm basically just saying, it's not good to sell a ship basically just trading on that nostalgia. It'd be nice if it had more to it than just the nostalgia and maybe a trait.
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I have to really strongly disagree. That is the
Yeah.
whole point of this game. The whole nostalgia point. People are going to buy
No,
the
it's
tier
not. That's
6
not what I'm
Defiant.
saying. I'm saying it's
And
I
bad to
know
trade
a
early
ton of
on.
people that will just buy a T6 Defiant for the sake of it being a T6 Defiant. Myself personally, I
Of
will
course.
I will throw my dollars and my wallet and whatever at the screen if it includes the pilot abilities.
Yeah.
Those pilot maneuvers. I guarantee you, I don't care how much money I don't have at that point in time when that ship comes out, because based on the timing that it looks like it's going to be, it's the time of month where I'm usually waiting for my next paycheck to come in. But I will throw whatever I have at the screen to make that happen. I will throw every single bit of dill I have out, to try and buy that. But if it doesn't include it, I'm just probably not going to care. I mean,
Well,
that's
I
my
think
position.
I think what we're trying to say here is that sorry, Cam, just one before your final point. I just want to say one thing. I think what we're trying to say here, we're not representing the people who are just going to dish out because of these ships, the fact that these ships exist. What we're saying is that there is a potential bucket of money for Cryptic if they dig a little deeper on these ships and bring us something as epic as they did with the pilot ships, like wow us like they did with the pilot ships. And I think that's the whole reason I pushed for this to be included in this week's show, because there's a real opportunity here to bring some players back in the game who really have been screaming for the Brel since Delta Rising came out. Like, why isn't there a T6
Ever.
Defiant? Where's the
Forever.
Brel? All that sort of stuff. The people who go beyond the iconic factor of the ships, because to me, yeah, those ships are good. They remind me a lot of Star Trek, but that's not enough
Exactly,
for
but
me
it's not the only thing that
to
drives ship sales.
yeah,
exactly.
I see
Alright.
your point, but let's face it, the type of player that we are is a very small minority. The big majority of players out there will go out and buy the ship because it's a tier 6 Defiant, because it's a tier 6 Bird of Prey. Just for that reason alone. And they are the majority, and, Cryptic is going to get buckets and bucket loads of money just from them. And us, the minority here, we're probably less than 5% of the player base that actually look at the ships and look at the stats and compares them to other ships and saying, this is not quite as good as this one, so I'm not going to, maybe I'll pass this month on buying a ship. We're a very, very small minority. And, it's Cryptic is actually going to...
That 5% could equal hundreds of thousands of dollars, which could be a make or break for
I
the
will-
next project.
I will say this much right now. We're going to move on to the next topic, where while we are that 1% or less than 1%, we right now are in a position where we're a very influential 1%, where some people are actually hinging on making a purchase based off of what Sarcasm Detector says, or what Timberwolf says about something, or what Jai says about something else here. So people are actually listening to us as much as they want to see their favorite skin on a framework and fly it. So if we say, hey, look, you know what, this is coming out here, it would be nice if it has this, but if it doesn't have this, it may or may not be worth getting. Buy at your own discretion, enjoy it if you like it. Some people would actually take what we say and say, well, if they don't like it, so be it. We won't get it either because it doesn't have these features. And they would say it makes sense because, hey, you know what? In the shows, we saw the Defiant making maneuvers. We saw Burrell's being extremely nimble. Why can't we have that in game? And people are going to go down with it. Yes, there are some people who will buy a Burrell because it's a Burrell, period. But other people want more than just one trait and another slot. They want more than that.
100% agree.
And you would see while we don't have metrics one way or the other like Cryptic does. Obviously, Cryptic's going to make a business decision that's good for them. We're just saying from the public standpoint and from what people are talking to us and we're telling them and talking back to them on and sharing our opinions, you would have a lot more people cracking out wallets and saying, please, And thank you.
I guess we're going to have to agree to disagree on this one.
Just to add to that, I think another avenue of money making right there would be more options for different interiors. I know I could speak on the role-playing community that there is a lot of role players who bought the T6 Pathfinder, not for the ship, but for the unique interior that came with it, because people were getting tired of the old interior, whether it be the quarters or the mess hall or the giant warp core, like oversized warp core in engineering. People were getting really tired of that. So when it was released, and it's like, yeah, this is coming with a brand new bridge, new ready room, conference room, quarters, mess hall, engineering, astrometrics, cargo bay, a lot of the role players jumped on that. And if Cryptic were to hone in on that and develop more internal stuff, that could actually be more more money coming in for them, and it is something that the players want. Like, I've heard firsthand that people would like the opportunity to custom what's in their ready room, like put kind of like how you can set your own trophies up in the mess hall. They'd like to be able do that. Like if you go to Andoria, you get a special relic. You have the choice of putting that on your desk or on the coffee table or something like that.
There was an ability to kind of like sit there and Foundry system my ship interior, I would never leave my ship interior, honestly.
I would have to add to what Zeph said and saying, you know what, I've actually been on a bridge, and I have to say, bravo, good work. That was good stuff. And I'm not an RPer, but I enjoyed the quality of work and the attention to detail that went into it. So even as a non-RPer per se, I don't mind. I actually would enjoy looking at a bridge like that, or looking at the engineering room or astrometrics while I'm talking to other people and dealing with them instead of just sitting out in sector space. So bravo to them for doing a good job. Please keep that up.
Yeah, please do more. Like, I know it's a lot of work to do the interior stuff, and hats off to whoever did the Voyager interior. Like, that was spot on. I and a lot of people in the community, even non-RPers, as you're hearing it from Odin, would really like to see more different interiors, like a galaxy interior, like TNG themed interior.
More canon interiors would be fantastic.
Exactly, yeah. So, but I realize how much work goes into it, but there is a want and a need for it, and if you attach it to a ship, people are gonna buy it. Like, I bought the Pathfinder for the bridge, and
do what you have to do.
Yeah, I bought the Pathfinder ship, and I barely use it.
A random comment from Loot Critter that no one said anything about that's pretty insightful is that a thing about interiors, it has to serve more than one purpose, be used in a series of episodes, etc. Otherwise, it doesn't make money. That actually has precedence in real life. The pilot episode of TNG had the engine room written into it just so they would build the set. Otherwise, Roddenberry knew it would never happen.
I was gonna actually comment on that.
But that's a good comment. It's a very insightful comment from Luke Critter.
Yeah.
That it does have to have the cost amortized somewhere else.
Here's the thing: they have updated interiors for at least Federation ships. I'm not sure about the Klingon ones or the Romulan ones, but there is a new updated interior for the Fed ships, which was pretty much only shown in the new Fed tutorial.
Yep.
And there might have been an episode or two, one of the recent episodes or two, where it showed up.
Yeah, the Iconian missions.
One of the Iconian missions, but they never implemented that into the game yet as a ship interior for the players, for example.
Like, another example is that
is something that they could implement. It's already there. The assets are there. They just have to tie it in and use that. And of course, it's already being used in featured episodes. Put it in the Foundry as well, and there you go. You have multiple uses for it.
They have the full scimitar bridge with multiple levels in the Capture the Flag mission, and it's the same there. We still just have the one level on this actual scimitar bridge.
Right. It's not just the scimitar bridge. I mean, that the additional levels in the in Capture the Flag. I mean, those are things I'd love to see in the Foundry, just for an example. Like, those are all maps that would be fantastic for the Foundry edition, but they all match the pattern of just every other Warbird interior, and they're just locked to that mission.
All right, moving on to next topic. I just realized what time it was, so we're going to be accelerating a little bit here, and some of the other topics we're going to push to the next episode. Timberwolf, can you give us some information on what's been happening over the past weekend with Cryptic and the state of the game itself? You pissed him off.
Okay, so, this past weekend, as we all know, we had our triple reward weekend. We had done what we needed to do, and we got all these double rewards: dilithium, fleet marks, skill points. I'm starting to feel gravel in my throat. Thank you, Cam. And it was supposed to be all weekend long. And then I believe it was started either Saturday night. I saw a little bit of it Saturday night and well into Sunday, more or less almost all day Sunday, off and on. We had what we found out to be DDoS attacks against the server. But they weren't against STO's server primarily, they were against Neverwinter. One of the ways we learned about this was some kid was bragging on Twitter, of all places. And we only could picture it, piece it together because when he advertised it, it happened within just a few moments of each other. But the DDoS attacks he was doing against Neverwinter, because we're all in the same server groups, from what I understand, they were also affecting us almost as badly. So that led to a lot of people not being able to connect, not being able to do pretty much anything on their accounts during, I want to say, a good third to a half of the weekend for this massive rewards. And considering the average casual player doesn't have much time to play, that pretty much locked out a lot of casuals from these rewards. And they continued well into Monday from what I've seen. And I believe we just had one today, as a matter of fact. From checking my Twitter account now, we had one just a few hours ago. It, for me, put everything aside as far as the weekend rewards and the loss of time and everything, I think this is a grade A example of why the server groups should be separated, because it's become too easy for one game to be attacked and all the others that are run by Cryptic to also be attacked via proxy. I don't know if anybody agrees with me here on that, but I'm really, just by what's seeing the past week, if Neverwinter is getting attacked and we instantly see the results in the STO and it's affecting us, then it might be time to invest in a new server group for just Star Trek Online. That could at least help us if someone's not attacking us directly.
From a
I'm not an
optimistic
engineer.
perspective, it's definitely easy to agree with you and say, sure, I think it's a great idea to separate them both. It may not be possible for infrastructure reasons. It's hard to say. It's hard for me to even speculate why, but there may be cost reasons. There could be basically reasons laid out and dictated by Perfect World. There could be other reasons why it's not possible to do that.
Yeah, because I'm not an engineer by any means. I play with a lot of network engineers and people that study this code. I'm trying to learn from them.
Sure. You can mitigate stuff like this by putting really, really very expensive hardware firewalls in the way. That's the way. Everything except packet flooding can basically be prevented that way.
It just seems like we've seen it especially a lot this past week. It would be nice if we could see, because we've seen what they've done as far as the bugs. We've seen their bug basher initiative come out. It would be nice to see what they were working on to help mitigate some of these issues, even if there's not a whole lot they can do at the present moment with their storyboarding. It would be nice to see that, just so that we know they are working on something to mitigate this in the future.
The problem is, I'm sorry, let me just say this real quick. The problem is to actually separate the games like you're suggesting, they would have to have the different game servers in different geographic locations. And the issue here is that all the game servers are in one server farm down in Boston somewhere. And when that the DDoS attacks, I don't believe they were DDoS attacks. I think they were just plain DOS attacks. When they hit that server
I
farm,
don't know if any one person's got access to that much bandwidth, Ken. That was a lot. It was showing up in Kaspersky's maps, so I think it was a DDoS. If I had to guess, like a Chinese zombie botnet.
possibly. So it probably knocked out not just the games, the cryptic games. It probably knocked out everything else that was using that particular server
It
farm.
probably knocked out a bunch in that facility. Yeah.
And probably some of the related facilities around there, stuff that routes through there as well. So to actually stop that, the cryptic would have to, or PW would have to rent multiple server farms in different locations, geographic locations, and that gets really, really expensive.
It's really not easy to multi-home stuff like that, especially not just pick it up and multi-home it. But these are all good ideas, and we're not discounting anything you said on.
As somebody who works as a data center technician, I can tell you that it does get pricey, especially when you have to incorporate redundancy. When you get into start initializing or deploying a DDoS infrastructure to help yourself, that there gets expensive. And when you get into the aspect of needing to transfer a VM of a server from one location to another, that there gets really expensive, because in order to do that, you really need like a 40 gig. You could do with a 10, but it's best to do with like a 40 gig fiber connection from point A to point B. I believe Facebook did it when they acquired Instagram. They moved all the VMs across a 40 gig connection, and it was almost seamless. I think Mikey and I were talking about this last week, where there was some photos that got duplicated or something like that.
Yeah, it was something very unfortunate. It was a visualization issue, if I remember.
Yeah. Now,
with a horse.
It doesn't, because of this, the service that everything is going through, Cogent, it's safe to say that Perfect World in this aspect isn't Oprah rich with being able to put money towards
Cogent
infrastructure.
is a very low-tier provider, unfortunately.
Yeah. So you wouldn't be able to do it. I don't think they would be able to afford to do a live migration. I think they would actually have to take things down, and that would be a couple of days at the very least.
Station wagon full of backup tapes, Alan.
Oh God, yeah.
Please, jazz drives, a whole bunch of jazz drives, and move them over that way.
There's still people who jazz drives. Oh my God.
But at the very least,
it's easy to talk to those, my friend.
It can get expensive, but I think at the very least we can all agree they could look into something in the future, even if it's not for 6 months to a year. If it's going to happen multiple times, that does cut into their profits, because people see that it's getting DDoSed more and more regularly. They're going to stop playing. Not just Star Trek Online, not just Neverwinter, but anything from the company, if they think it's just for the company. And it might be more than just Cryptic that got hit, but we're talking about the games we play from Cryptic. If it's something that could occur more and more frequently, then that would cut into their profits, even if there's just firewall protections. Just, anything, I guess, to help mitigate, even if it's minor.
There is something that I would note, and I've mentioned this beforehand a couple months ago, where it looked like Perfect World is attempting to enact some sort of PNAP, some sort of private network infrastructure, and doing just the basic overview of this, the quick and dirty of it. It's that you can advance your network up further, and then have multiple ISPs feed you data. And you set up routing protocols so that you can distribute that data out through the best channel to reach your customers better, your clients better. So that way, if Cogent gets flooded for whatever reason, you have 6 or 7 different ISPs based off of whatever tier service you're paying for that can still handle that data, and your downtime will be minimal, if nothing at all.
It can get more complex than that when you delve into things like ISP peering agreements and stuff like that. But that's not a horrible idea.
Yeah, it's a good idea. It's really complex. I just want to jump on something that Luke Critter just said, and I was about to talk about this as well. yeah, having some kind of mitigation for these attacks is all well and good. What they really need to do, and I think it's actually in the process of happening, is the FBI has been engaged. The FBI actually does
Good.
get involved in this
Excellent.
sort of thing. This is their jurisdiction. It might actually, depending on where the person is, it might also involve the RCMP, or if it's in Europe, whatever agencies they have in Europe as well.
Interpol will definitely get involved with this as well.
If it's international, yeah. And they take this type of thing very, very seriously. We might
Absolutely.
not actually hear about it in the news, but I suspect this person is going to be spending some time in a federal prison very soon.
Yeah,
we
I think
understand that Perfect World Encrypted can't actually talk about that, but kudos to Trendy for being very active on social media, letting us know that there's a problem. Pretty much as soon as the lag had started, they were on there saying that there's a DDoS attack. We're on it, and that was excellent communication from them. So kudos to them for that.
Absolutely.
yeah.
We have to say that, that was handled very well by Perfect World Entertainment. And kudos to, again, echoing the kudos that have already been mentioned, kudos to Trendy and kudos to everybody else on the STO team that was open and communicating with us pretty much almost as the events happened. So thank you very much for not leaving us in the dark. Once you communicate with us, we understand what's going on. We're more than willing to work with you on whatever the
Absolutely.
problem is. We're not blaming you for this.
It's disappointing, but we understand and we move on.
Yeah, and on top of that, you get a lot of support from the community as well to be able to help with the investigation. Whether it's something of like putting pressure on people who want to copycat this attack to say no and hell no, don't even think about it, to if we get any sort of evidence, like say if they post on some other forum, we'll get you the details for that to aid in the investigation to stop this, as well as to prevent any other attacks like this from occurring, not just for you, but for anybody else out there.
Yeah, a lot of us are, I think a few of us have actually taken videos while the DDoS is happening and we've gotten kicked out. So I'm definitely down to help with stuff like that if it was asked.
All right, guys, shall we move on to this week's patch notes and move everything that we couldn't get to talk about this week, including the excellent featured episode of Midnight. We'll have to move kudos to that for next week because that does deserve a bit of discussion. It was a great episode, but this week's patch notes.
Do that.
I don't know. I think we should probably talk a little bit about the Midnight.
Okay, I'm down for that.
Yeah, so last Thursday, Midnight was released, and everybody here played it, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I haven't had time to yet, but go ahead. You're not going to ruin anything for me.
You
It's a good
seriously
story. It's a
haven't
good
watched
story.
it yet?
Oh, mate, it is great. It's a great episode.
It really good. On the RP side of things, it doesn't break a lot of RP fleets, what they have going on. So some people were worried that there would be like a huge retcon, and one thing RP fleets are really afraid of is temporal stuff where things get altered really badly. But the storyline was awesome. I have to give huge mad dope props to the folks who created the Iconian ground map. That was beautiful. And I am so excited that it's coming to Foundry tomorrow, which will be mentioned in the patch notes in a little bit. But damn, like wow, like I thoroughly enjoy the story. Yeah, what do you guys have to say about it?
I am really stoked because I was right. A few months ago, you guys know I've talked about it quite a bit. I made predictions, and I said this is how it's going to turn out, or this is how I believed it's going to turn out, and I was spot on. And it was just because the way it was written, I thought, all right, how would I write the ending for this? This is how I would write the ending. And bam, there it was. Perfect.
Now, if there was one disappointing element to the whole thing, it's the fact that the team only got ice cream sandwiches to reward them for their efforts. Come on. They deserve more than a bunch of ice cream sandwiches. They need more than that.
Jyril, let 'em
Amazing
know.
ice cream
they
sandwiches.
They looked amazing. They looked epic.
I
but
will say
yeah,
that much. Like, I had intense discussions with a few devs on Twitter about those ice cream sandwiches, and they were not just, a Klondike bar, guys. This was something quite spectacular.
you should turn up to Mikey's house with 20 of them.
Yeah, I gotta say,
They will be gone before I get there.
when I first played it, I was drawn more towards the story and the artwork. I agree with Alan. You can't praise it enough. The artwork and detail to what was done to the maps, especially
Beautiful.
ancient Iconia. Dear God, that was absolutely incredible. Especially if you ramp up your graphics to absolute maximum. The detail was amazing. It was really well thought out. Yes, Cam was right on his assertions.
It's sad that we only get to see ancient Iconia during this one mission, though.
It would be nice to have a way to go back, to have that option where you can go back at will, just so you could explore it more.
And as Delta just mentioned in chat, your KDF character gets to explore SF Academy at the end, so that's always fun.
That got fixed, though.
Yeah.
It's a shame.
But the story was really awesome. I personally like to talk to some of the developers who worked on that mission on the show. Maybe pick their brain about what went into making that amazing ground set. And real quick, what do you guys think about the 3-piece space set that you get after the 3 weeks?
Can't wait to put that on my side build for a bit of tankishness.
I
It's
guess it's
looking like a
very
very
for me,
tanky
but it's
build.
certainly nice, especially for free.
Yeah, it does look very tanky.
But it's a very good free set. Very good free set.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's folks. If you only like playing the mission once and don't really care about the rewards, I would definitely do it with a friend each week, and definitely get yourself that 3-piece set. It's definitely worth it. And I think the story and the visuals of it is definitely what's the word? Eye pleasing. Keep it PG here. Eye pleasing enough that it's definitely make it enjoyable to run through it each time.
It is certainly interesting. I'm kind of interested in the 4th week's prize, the space trade.
Yeah. I don't even remember what it is, to be honest.
Is that the one that cools down if you remain over 80%? Is that one?
No, the
The one
trait is if you drop below 50%, it's an automatic hull heal. So basically, the best way to word it is if you're a tactical tune, you'd have probably about a second to activate GDF before it healed you back up to where you couldn't activate it.
9 personal traits is just not enough anymore, is it?
So it's a
Hint,
personal
nudge.
trait, not a starship trait, right?
It's a
It looks
space
like-
trade, yes.
All right, space
And-
personal. Gotcha.
One more thing to comment on. I can't remember which developer it was. I think it might have been Gecko. It might have been Zero. I'm not entirely sure. But I do remember on the Twitter feeds them saying that it'd be really interesting to see what people do as Foundry missions, as kind of a, all right, the Iconian War is done. What happens now for us to pick up the pieces and rebuild? So I'm going to keep my eye out on what Foundry missions come out in that regards. And
There have been such a volume already of pretty good quality missions where people have explored the unsung battles of the Iconian War and whatnot, and I'm really excited to see what people do with Jupiter Station, the referenced bit that happened at midnight and just didn't appear in the episode.
It got cut out, I believe. But yeah, that would be
Right.
something very, very interesting. Let's
Actually, we're gonna wrap this up right now. I know we left the patch notes on there, but we'll include the links in here on the detailed discussions We have a lot of things that we didn't touch tonight. We'll be moving it over to next week. If we all have time, we might even drop a special edition over the weekend if schedules line up. But otherwise, we're going to wrap this show up right now. So I'd like to thank Fleet Admiral Jyril for showing up here and introducing us to Reddit fleets. You know what? We will add one other thing here before I do the final intros out. As I introduce everybody here, give us a brief description of what you do for your own channels, your own YouTube channels, if you have one, or if you don't have one, you moderate a forum or something like that. A brief 15-second description of what you do, please. So we'll start with our guest host, Fleet Admiral Jyril. We know you manage the Reddit forums. Anything else you want to mention about your fleet or the forums themselves?
No, pretty much all covered in the beginning of the show. So it's reddit.com/r/sto. We have the Stow Reddit, or at Stow Reddit Twitter handle that kind of keeps track of a lot of our stuff online, and we have the Stow Reddit Twitch channel for a lot of our live streams. Yep, that Blackjack runs both of those.
Thank you, sir. And our Chief Logistics Officer, give us a little intro on what you do for your channel.
Mainly just recording us having fun while we do our missions. I even put up a recent video where, once again, we did runs with Zeronius Rex, theory crafting for my personal favorite starships, just general shenanigans, really, in the game.
And you do a lot of interactions with both Valken and S.A. Ross on the Pilot Review Show, correct?
Yes, sir.
And we'll include the links for them as well within the comment section here. Our Chief Intelligence Officer, please, what do you do on your channel?
Well, very similar. My channel started out as just having fun and DPSing and just, shenanigans. It's progressed to doing reviews, shakedowns of the latest and greatest ships, and most recently I've started dabbling in live streaming. It's still kind of new, but hopefully we'll take off from there.
Thank you, sir. Our Chief Science Officer, what do you do on yours?
It's been pretty quiet of late, but normally I do, if there is a bug or something exposed in the game, I do make a video of it and put it in the bug forums. Also been dabbling in, there's a grumble from Cam just there. No, not nerfs, only if SOB is that I'll try and get it nerfed. I've also been dabbling in making episodes within the demo record system. And we'll have a new channel for that. We'll update the links on that shortly, called Sarah Lee Videos. So that's where pretty much my focus is on the game now, trying to be a bit more creative, but also keep up the service and trying to get SOB nerfed as much as possible at the same time.
I, for one, will fight off anybody else who tries to mess with you on it, because you actually do put up some very informative and eye-opening videos on there, and you break it down in a way that not only the community can understand it, but as well the developers can also understand it as well. And I understand that there are a couple of videos that have yet to be seen that need some attention later on, and we'll bring that up on another episode of the show. Yes, we will. Our Chief of Cheesy Tactics, please, anything that doesn't stink on your channel.
My channel pretty much is just random PvP and PvE runs.
I would like to point out that he is Ox to Robin at the best. Maybe Ox to Nighthawk or Nightwing at the best.
Ouch.
Wow. SOB's tried to usurp a name that does not belong to him in I can't believe he's done it.
I didn't choose the name.
Ouch.
We might actually put the link to SOB's Orcs to Bats solo ISA run, so you can feel free to comment on his piloting during the game, because it's out there to be commented on.
It's special. All right. Our Chief Ironic Medic, please. What do you have on the table here?
Oh hi. Well, I'm a mod of RSTO builds, which is a subreddit of RSTO, actually a branch of it. We mainly concentrate on either displaying your own finished build, sharing it, which is a big part of it, or people come very often just to get help with their own builds, to get help or alternate viewpoints, or just build discussion on it. So that's what we do. I tend to support the support builds because they're not as common as the DPS builds and things like that. So those are my special snowflakes. That's about all I got.
It's a very important all you got, because I for one have sought advice on there, and then I posted my own builds and received some help from a bunch of people that are on there on that community, and that's what helped me up my game early on when I came back to the game.
Even briefly going back to what was said really early on about the forums, we're just kind of a less noisy place to get help. That does, when there's a lot of stuff coming at you at once, when you're maybe new to the game or coming back after a significant time out, you tend to want fairly clear opinions, fairly clear advice. I believe that we can offer that.
Well, we appreciate it. Our chief emergency role-playing hologram, state your nature of your channel.
Well, my channel started off just creating fleet videos, kind of hype up whatever role-playing events that we had coming up, and it's kind of expanded to continuing to do that and trying to make cinematic videos or trailers to kind of hype up the STO community with new things that are coming out. So, for example, there was the Crenham Fleet holding the new STF that's out on Tribble right now, Counterpoint, and I made my own quote-unquote unofficial trailer for the Season 11 New Dawn that's coming out hopefully next month, end of next month. So
Which
that's
is
kind
awesome.
That's the stuff that I dabble in, and I will continue to dabble in because people seem to like it. So I will continue to serve the community in that capacity.
They've been awesome. They have been great.
Oh, thank you.
You want to talk about awe-inspiring videos? Is like, especially the last one, the unofficial Season 11 trailer is like, yeah, I gotta wake up in the morning for this sucker. Especially the last 20 seconds.
It's monstrous, dude.
Beautiful. And just a short snippet of what I do here on this channel. I mean, I quote-unquote run the show. It started out pretty much as just a jam session. It still is a jam session. We just talk about whatever we talk about on whatever comms we use, primarily TeamSpeak. And we wanted to keep the forum open and as fact-filled as possibly can, while also now focusing on a little bit of entertainment and shining the spotlight on other people and other fleets to see what they do within the community, and to show that while it may be a small community, it's robust and it's worth investing your time and your entertainment value that you get from it is worth paying for in some respects, whether it's monetarily or whether it's just your leisure time that you want to invest into this. I do other things every now and then, just post up whatever flight shenanigans I get into it, primarily focusing on kinetics, but doing, whatever. And I also have things that are going on outside of the STO community, mostly focusing on real-world events and social events, some tied to gaming, others not tied to gaming. But pretty much it's just, it happens. This is some of the things of what I do, and it's more or less brain droppings that come out of my head, and here it is. So I thank you all for listening tonight. Thank you very much for Jyril for being here. We appreciate
having
you.
me.
Oh yeah, we love it. We'll sweep you in from time to time and get into it. Darth Proteus, Torp Life. Yes, we love it. Catch you all next time on the show. See you in game.